Always use the Help menu to find things. The Help menu's got Search at the top, and you may think that that allows you to search documentation, and it does, but it also gives you menu commands. So for instance, to find subscript in Pages, all I need to do is type that in Help, and you'll see it appear under menu items. If you move your pointer over it, it'll even show you where it is so you can go directly to it next time. The next basic technique is drag and drop. You probably use drag and drop for some things, but it can be used for almost anything. For instance, here in the Finder, of course you could use drag and drop to take a file and move it into a folder. A common technique is to open up a second Finder window and then drag and drop a file from one window to a folder in another to move it around. But you can also use drag and drop for so many other things, especially going between apps. Let's say you want to export a photo from the Photos app. You can do that with a menu command, sure, but you could also drag and drop. So just drag the photo from the Photos app to the Finder and it will export it. And likewise, you could also drag into Photos. You can also use drag and drop to bring objects into apps. For instance, if I want to bring this photo into my Pages document here, sure, I could click Media, Photos, and then go and find that photo. But if it's sitting right here in the Finder, I can just drag and drop it into Pages. And you can go from one app to the other. So to get a photo from the Photos app into Pages, I can go directly from one app to the other using drag and drop. You can also use drag and drop to open up a file in a specific app using the dock. So I could drag this photo here into the dock and then drop it onto an app to open it up in that app. And sometimes it'll work with apps you don't even expect. Like for instance, I can drag a photo into Mail. What would happen then is it would start a new message with that photo as an attachment. Or you could just use drag and drop to take the image from the Finder into a message that you're already writing. Drag and drop is often the answer when users aren't sure how to do a certain task. For instance, a classic example is in System Preferences. If you go to Desktop and Screensaver and then to Desktop, you want to make a photo your desktop background. Well, one way to do that is to simply drag a photo to this area here. This is called a drop zone. And when you do that, it changes the desktop background to that image. You're able to do that with drag and drop, even though there was no button or obvious indicator that drag and drop would work in that situation. The next technique you need to master is the context menu. So this is different than the menu bar at the top. Context menu appears with the object that you're trying to act on. So, for instance, here is a file. If I bring up the context menu by holding the Control key and then clicking, you can see a menu appears right there at that spot. The actions in this menu pertain to the item that I clicked on. So these are all things that I could do with that image file. Now there are three ways to bring up the context menu. You can hold the Control key down and click. If you've got a trackpad, you can use 2 fingers on the trackpad and click. And if you're using a mouse, you can right click to bring up the context menu. The last two are options in System Preferences. If you go to Trackpad System Preferences, go to Point and Click. This is called the secondary click. And you could set how to bring up the secondary click. The same thing for using the mouse. Secondary click has 2 different options here. So if one of those isn't working for you, make sure it's checked and make sure you know the option that you're using. The context menu comes up just about anywhere. So here I am in Photos. I can Control click on a photo to see what I can do with that photo. I can click on the desktop itself, not even a file that's there, and bring up options for the desktop. Or I can click on the background of a Finder window to bring up options for that. I can go to the dock and bring up the context menu for anything there, and I'll see different options for each app and sometimes documents that have been recently opened in that app or are currently open. And even on a web page, I can select text. I can bring up the context menu for that text. I can bring up the context menu for an image that I see there to get different options for that specific object. And the same thing in Pages. If I want to control an object, I can bring up the context menu for it to see different options that have to do with that specific type of object. Now the last technique you need to master is copy and paste, which is definitely one of the most basic techniques on any type of computing device. But there's more to it than just copying and pasting text. I mean, sure, you can use it to copy text using Edit Copy and then paste that text somewhere else. But you can also use it for things that aren't text. Any object, like this image here, you can copy. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Command C and then paste. I'm going to use Command V and I get another copy of that object. But you can also copy and paste to go between apps. So I could select an image here in Photos, Command C to copy. Then I could go to Pages here and Command V to paste that photo in. Sometimes copy can actually mean different things depending upon what it is you want to copy. You can use the context menu to see all the different variations. So for instance, here on a web page, if I bring up a context menu for this image, you could see several different ways to copy. There's copy link, there's copy the image address, and there's copy the image. So I can copy the image here, and then I could switch to another app like Pages, and I could paste here. And you can see I've copied the image from the web page and pasted it into this document. Sometimes copying and pasting is easier to do than drag and drop because you can't always see the origin and destination for the object at the same time on the screen. So you can copy when you see the original object, then go over to another window and paste in that object. Something that's difficult to do with drag and drop if you can't see the origin and destination at the same time. You can even do this with files. So I could select a file here, Command C to copy, and then I could go to another location and Command V to paste. And I've pasted a copy of that file in that location. If I wanted to move the file instead, I start with the copy just like before. Go to the destination. Now if I look under Edit, there's Paste Item, but if I hold the Option key down, you'll see Paste Item changes to Move Item here. So instead of Command V, Option Command V will move a file. So Option Command V, the file's there, and if I go back to the original location, you can see it's not there anymore. It's been moved instead of copied. So there are 4 techniques that every Mac user needs to